But as all of us know, gathered here today, we would not be here were it not for the vision, the courage, the unwavering determination of one particular individual, Joe Biden.
We would not be here.
All of us know,
as all of us know,
today,
gathered here today,
we would not be here were it not for the vision, the courage, the unwavering determination of one particular individual, Joe Biden.
This statement, it was almost factually correct. Had it just gone from "we would not be here had it not been for," skip the superlatives or the flattery. We would not be here had it not been for Joe Biden. That's something everybody could agree with. I thought it was funny. Had we not been here for redacted Joe Biden, we would not be here had it not been for. The funny thing is, in driving down here from Canada, I noticed at a lot of gas stations, there were stickers on the pumps of Joe Biden, and it said, "I did this." So kind of funny. Before I get too far into it, people, I'm glistening. It's too damn hot for a penguin to be just walking around. It's so hot. But other than that, is the audio good before I go on? You're going to have to deal with the reverb echo just for a little bit. I've contacted a recording studio in the area. I think they're in Palm Beach or somewhere down by the coast. And I'm going to have this room properly soundproofed. So it's going to be good. So stay tuned. For now, got those panels on the wall, a towel on the floor, styrofoam behind me, and we're just going to not have to let the perfect get in the way of the good. This was short notice. Thank you for being here. If you can share the link and tweet it out, all the better. But otherwise, thank you very much, Candace. The echo. When the echo's gone, we're all going to miss the echo. This was short notice. Every day kind of feels like that nice balance between getting things done and being overwhelmingly out of control. And I think I'm always teetering on the out of control, bordering on. We have now come down to Florida, packed everything in a car, 3 kids, 2 dogs, and absolutely no help. And I'm not saying this isn't like we have no help. It's just like my parents don't live up the street now. My mother-in-law can't just swing down for an overnighter. We have thus far, I won't say no friends. I've got some friends, but it's like starting from scratch. And above all else, we're moving into an unfurnished house. We start from scratch. No spices in the pantry. Nothing in the fridge. Right now, there's a bottle of not Jack Daniels. What is it? It's another one with a name. Comes in a square bottle. Jim Beam. It's a Jim Beam. Oh, and so we got to get mattresses, food, and kids. I'll tell you what. It's tough to keep kids entertained, but I've been doing it. We've been doing it and getting in the streams, getting in the reading, getting in the knowledge, following the news. And today's a good one. Today, total last minute Canadian content. My brother, who is a lawyer in Ontario, messages me and says, Viva, because my brother calls me Viva. I got a canker under my tongue, by the way. If it looks like I'm in pain swallowing, it's because I am. My brother says, Viva, there's a teacher in Ontario who's under investigation for criticizing CRT, critical race theory, for posting on social media posts critical of what this teacher referred to as CRT indoctrination. Under investigation. And I said, give her my number. She texted me. I said, can you pop on? Super short notice, 5 o'clock tonight. She's coming. Chantal Fall, I think is how you would pronounce her name, coming on. Oh, and we got Travel Fun 69 in the house. Speaking of Canadians and Canadian content, Travel Fun, how you doing? We met in Ottawa, live streaming the Ottawa protests. Oh, there we go. Here you go. Travel Fun did. It's an amazing thing. Travel Fun, you Scott Ottawa, you Scott. Then you've got. Oh my goodness, I forgot all of them already. Zot. All of. Great job documenting reality and just making it interesting for people to watch in real time. Anyway, so we got that. Chantal Fall is coming on at 5 o'clock to talk about now being under investigation because she posted on social media posts critical of what she referred to as CRT indoctrination. We'll get into it. Before that, we're going to talk about Steve Bannon, whose trial for contempt of Congress is coming up next week. It won't be broadcast, but I might have, I hope to have, not unlawful, what's the word? Not privileged access? Connections. I hope to have like on the ground immediate connections to feedback information in real time. Otherwise, regardless, going to be covering that. We're going to talk about Lucas Gerhart just briefly, because in last night's stream, everybody was saying, Viva, Lucas Gerhart struck a plea deal. He's free to go, and that's the end of it. Thus far, the only news I can find on it comes from Nick Rekieta and his explanation of what happened, but I won't get into that, which I know I don't know anything about. We're going to go over the story just briefly, and then what Nick Rekieta says is now the outcome. Dude's walking free, and all he has to do is admit to certain facts. We'll get there. Hunter Biden. We're going to talk about Hunter Biden and the impact, what the Hunter Biden scandal, because it's a scandal. It's a scandal in and of itself, and the way in which it's being ignored by the media. Is the way it's being ignored by the media is a scandal of its own as well. And I think people have almost forgotten about how big of a scandal this is. Got something in my eye here. The autistic tiger, Viva Tiger, is drawing upside down now. He was a huge hit at SuperCon. I met the autistic tiger dad at the Project Veritas event, which, by the way, perfect segue. I will be in Vegas Wednesday to Friday for Freedom Fest, where I will be speaking with, I'll stop, James O'Keefe and another panelist. I'm sorry, I forget the name. At 15:10, 3:10 on Thursday, Freedom Fest, talking about government and media, maybe less so media, but government assault on First Amendment rights in America and freedom of speech and freedom of the press as we know it in Canada, because we have a charter of rights. It just doesn't seem to carry the weight of an actual capital C constitution that Americans have in America. And that's it. What we got more coming, but standard disclaimers. No legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. Super chats, if I don't get to them and it's going to make you feel unhappy that I do not bring up your super chat or read it, don't give it. I don't like people feeling miffed, grifted, shilled, rooked, or whatever. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. If you have an issue with that, we are also simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Rumble takes 20%, so better for the platform, better for everybody, better for the creator, better to support a platform that supports free speech. And that's it. My goodness, and I'm sweating, and I don't think I smell fresh. When are you moving to the USA? I am down here for an extended period of time now. Legally, lawfully. Stay tuned also for subsequent announcements, which are coming in due time. But the week we moved down here, three big announcements coming out of Canada. Tamara Lich, jailed, remanded back to jail for alleged breach of bail terms, alleged non-compliance with bail terms. Canadians notified that they're only going to be up to date with their vaccination schedule if they get boosted every 9 months. And if they don't, and they're not up to date, we know what that carries with it. If you you can travel now. The ever benevolent tyrant Justin Trudeau has now authorized the dirty unvaxxed, and just so nobody takes that out of context, I'm saying that judgmentally for Justin Trudeau. The dirty, the unclean, unvaxxed, who were hitherto, since, I don't know when he announced the mandate, have hitherto been prevented from boarding planes and trains in Canada. Benevolent tyrant dictator Justin Trudeau is now authorizing the unclean to board planes and trains. But if they cross the border and come back, they need to quarantine for no less than 14 days, not because they're ill, not because they're symptomatic, or not because they've even tested positive and are asymptomatic, solely by virtue of their status of an unclean, unvaxxed Canadian. They have to quarantine for no less than 14 days. They have to get those calls from the government every day. Hello, we have on record that this is, what do they call them? It was an officer. It's not a customs officer, quarantine officer, or one of them. I think it's a quarantine officer. Getting a call every day. Have you checked in on your app? Have you said, have you let the government know how you're feeling today? Are you still quarantining for no less than 14 days? Because if not, we might send the cops over, and they've done it. So there's that. But as of whenever they start implementing this booster every 9 months, if you don't get your booster, people, you're not going to be up to date, which means that if you travel into the States, benevolent dictator lets you go. But when you come back, the dictator locks you up for 14 days just because you're not vaccinated. So, how far a country can be sunk in a matter of years. I never would have thought one individual could so radically destroy the fabric of a free and democratic society. Maybe it was never truly free and democratic. I like to think it was, but good for Trudeau. I mean, I never would have thought it was possible. Loving the fro. What's amazing is I've got curls in here that are straight up Annie-esque curls. Annie-esque curls. No, it's not a parole officer. I think it's a quarantine officer. Health Canada officer, whatever. So that's it. Within 1 week. I mean, I don't ever plan on being up to date. I don't plan on getting boosted, let alone multi-boosted. And I also don't plan on quarantining for 14 days because of that. So we'll just have to see what impact this has on me as a human. Very happy to have you in the U.S., good sir. Unbreaded. Dab. Thank you. That avatar. That is Jesus doing a dab, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe just a Jesus-esque avatar. Oh, so that's it. It's this hurts Justin more than it hurts you. Trudeau wants to turn Canada into Cuba, the country his daddy ruined. Yeah. Okay, well, anyways, that's it. So unbreaded is turned into a classic meme. So, by the way, for those of you who don't know, first subject of the day, first law stuff's subject of the day. Steve Bannon is going to trial next week on the indictment for contempt of Congress. You will all recall that the January 6th committee that was charged to investigate the inciting of an erection, to quote Chuck Schumer, on January 6th. This committee arguably exceeded its lawful mandate or lawful powers as a committee, which is to investigate things for legislative purposes. From my understanding of U.S. law, take it for what it's worth as a Canadian lawyer who has been absorbing the law from the Barnes, from the Nate Brody, from the uncivil law, from the absorbing the American laws from the Emily Baker, Nick Rekieta, Legal Bites, Legal Mindset, all of them, Hogue Law, Andrew Bronca, Law of Self-Defense. My understanding is that these committees are convened, created to investigate for legislative purposes and not for carte blanche prosecutorial political weaponizing purposes. Some might feel, not saying me, but I might be saying me, some might feel that this January 6th committee has far exceeded any legitimate or specific legislative purpose and has gone into a full McCarthy-esque, North Korean-esque, pure political persecution of anyone and everyone who had anything to do directly, indirectly, through any means whatsoever with the events of January 6th, which I said uncivil. Okay. I also got suntan lotion in my eye, which is burning. There's a nut in my eye. Oh, God. I hate suntan lotion. So, arguably, this committee has far exceeded any legitimate legislative purpose. They were subpoenaing everybody. And they subpoenaed Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon said, no, Mas, I'm not abiding by your subpoena because I have been allegedly given executive privilege, which is the president saying there's executive privilege over correspondence between you and me as president, and I am therefore allowing or invoking executive privilege so that you cannot be compelled to testify, provide documents, whatever, comply with this congressional subpoena. As one would imagine, the committee says, no, we do not agree with this, and we are going to, oh gosh, darn it. Oh God, it really, really does sting. We don't agree with your invocation of privilege, and we're now going to go after you with the full force of the law. Now, for those of you who have not read the indictment, how do I get rid of that? There we go, I got rid of that. For those of you who have not read the indictment, we'll skim through it just to refresh your memories, because it's fun stuff to look at. I'm just going to star a couple of super chats. Use some baby white to do is going to burn more. Gosh darn it. Yeah, it's like, I hate this. Although it brings back a memory in CEGEP, which is like somewhere between high school and university. We took gym as a class. Oh my God, it's actually getting worse now. Who told me to do that? Oh God. Okay. This is going to forget it, living with it. In CEGEP, between high school and university, I took a gym course. Biking, I think it was biking. And we biked from Montreal to Ottawa. And one of the problems I noticed was when I put suntan lotion on my face, it drips into your eyes and it hurts your eyes. Teacher said, what was your solution? I said, put on a bandana. I got a great grade in that class. The indictment. It's worth refreshing our respective memories on the indictment, if I can find it now. Gosh darn it. Remove. Stop screen. I'm going to bring it back. Contempt of Congress, because it's the most serious thing in the world. And when you don't, if they don't get you on the substance, they'll get you on the process. This is the indictment. United States of America versus Stephen K. Bannon. I covered this way back in the day. I actually remember exactly where. It was in the car. Doesn't matter. The grand jury charges at all times to the material to this indictment on or about the dates and at the approximate times below. On June 30th, you got to read. We actually have to read through this because you're going to read the scope of the powers of the committee. And if you're not familiar with it, you're going to be shocked. And if you were familiar with it, you're going to be shocked again. On June 30, 2021, the U.S. House of Representatives, the House, adopted House Resolution 503. For anyone who's been watching the committee hearings, you've been hearing them reference the powers they gave themselves under this House resolution, which established the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. According to the House Resolution 503, the Select Committee's purpose was in part, oh my gosh, it's so painful, so sad, to investigate and report upon the facts, circumstances, and causes relating to the January 6, 2021 domestic terrorist attack upon the United States Capitol complex. They are referring to this, and pay attention to how many times in this indictment. I'm sorry, and also this is from the resolution. How many times in the resolution they refer to this as a domestic terrorist attack? The FBI found scant evidence of any coordinated anything. But this House resolution, which gives them all the power under the sun and then some, qualifies it as a domestic terrorist attack. Now, I want to go to the chat and just see what people in the chat are saying about this, if anything. Okay, nothing yet. Don't ever give birth. I'll tell you something that I believe I've experienced pain that is the equivalent of giving birth. For the TMI, and I'll stop here, it was the rubber band ligation procedure I had. I've never felt pain like that in my life, and I am thoroughly convinced I now know what it feels like to give birth to a baby. Okay, TMI aside, the terrorist attack upon the United States Capitol complex, hereinafter referred to as the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. Can you imagine they have the intellectual dishonesty to actually define the term as the domestic terrorist attack? I mean, insurrection was already a little bit pushing the envelope, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. Riot, violent protest. No. U.S. House Resolution 503 defines the incident as the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol and relating to the interference with the peaceful transfer of power, including facts and causes related to the preparedness and response of the United States Capitol Police and other federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies in the Capital Region and other instrumentalities of government, as well as the influencing factors that fomented such an attack on American representative democracy while engaged in a constitutional process. Paragraph 3. One of the Select Committee's functions, as set forth here, was to, listen to this, investigate the facts, circumstances, and causes relating to the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol, including the facts and circumstances related to influencing factors that contributed to the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol, and how technology, including online platforms, financing, and malign foreign influence and operations and campaigns may have factored into the motivation, organization, and execution of the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. Just pause for a second there. In the practice of law, people sometimes think it's nice or stylistically expedient or effective to use excessively hyperbolic terminology to refer to incidents and then to repeat it over and over and over again in court pleadings. Like, you'll always see it. The defendant, in a malicious act of bad faith and wanton disregard for the lawfulness of his or her actions, yada, yada. They'll bad faith, malicious disregard. And they'll say it over and over again. And my father, still alive, but always said to me in the practice, Viva. Sorry, he refers to me as David. David, those are conclusions that you want the judge to come to. You're not going to get the judge to come to those conclusions by telling the judge what conclusions the judge needs to come to. Give the judge the facts, describe the incidents, and describe it in a manner that allows the judge to come to that conclusion. Allow people, if this was a true, what are they referring to it as? Domestic terrorist attack. Allow people to come to that conclusion by describing the facts that might allow a person to come to those conclusions. Problem here, violent protest, yes. Insurrection, probably not. But arguably, potentially more so than a domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. And they say it over and over again to the point where it becomes ridiculous. But my father's advice for any lawyer out there, and I'll adopt it and make it my own advice. You lead the judge to the conclusion. You lead the judge to where you want the judge to come. You don't pull the judge by the ear, because that's not going to get you the result that you want. But alas, in this context at least, the House Investigative Committee are the judge, jury, and executioners. So they can tell themselves what a terrible incident it was, so they can come to the conclusion that it was in fact a domestic terrorist attack, because it says so in the indictment. It says so in House Resolution 503. All right, so they issue the House resolution, yada, yada, yada. They subpoena Stephen K. Bannon. And by the way, you notice how broad their powers are. In the context of this mission, the facts, circumstances, and causes relating to the domestic terrorist attack, including facts and circumstances related to influencing factors. They've used these factors and circumstances, extraneous factors and circumstances, to go after people who had nothing to do with it, to issue subpoenas to media personalities, to say, well, what they said might have some influencing factor. So let's issue a subpoena to them. If they don't abide by it, contempt of Congress. If they do abide by it, fishing expedition by definition of the highest order. Okay, so Stephen K. Bannon, they sent a subpoena for approximately 7 months and more than 3 years before the events of January 6th. And they're saying this to suggest that Bannon would not have any executive privilege to begin with. Bannon was employed in the executive branch of the government. Chief strategist, yada, yada. A lot of people didn't like the way Trump dumped him, whatever. After departing the White House in 2017, Bannon did not work again in any executive or federal branch government position. Okay. They issue Stephen K. Bannon a subpoena. The cover letter to the subpoena stated, "The Select Committee has reason to believe that you have information relative to understanding important activities that led to and informed the events at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. You'll notice this was before they have that definition of domestic terrorist attack. It's before that adopted terminology. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine. For example, you have been identified as present at the Willard Hotel on January 5, 2021, during an effort to persuade members of Congress to block the certification of the election the next day, and in relation to other activities. Moreover, you are quoted as stating on January 5, all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Accordingly, the Select Committee seeks both documents and your deposition testimony regarding these and multiple other matters that are within the scope of the committee's inquiry." It's in the scope of the committee's inquiry because the committee's inquiry gave itself anything and everything by way of scope. Therefore, everything and anything Steve Bannon might have said on January 5 or earlier is within their scope. The documents commanded by the subpoena. Listen to the documents. Do we have it? Do we have the schedule? Whatever. I'm not sure that we have the kit. Okay, whatever. So they've subpoenaed him. He invoked executive privilege, said, "I'm not sending it to you. This is covered by executive privilege, not sending it." It goes on. And then we have the count chart. Contempt of Congress testimony. The allegations in paragraph 1 through 21 are, and I'll give this to everybody who wants to go read it perhaps more thoroughly. Count 1, count 2, contempt of Congress. Having been summoned as a witness by the authority of the yada, 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 failed to do so. Okay, in violation of whatever. Contempt of Congress. Here's the link if anybody wants to go read it for yourself. The trial comes up next week. Now, what happened in the meantime, interesting news, is that apparently either Trump says, authorizes Bannon to testify, or Bannon says Trump allowed him to testify. Bottom line, last week, give or take, Bannon says, "Okay, I'll testify now, put off the trial, and I'll submit to testimony as a witness. I'll provide whatever documentation I had hitherto said I would not provide, or testimony I would not provide because it's covered by executive privilege. And let's put off the trial." And the judge today said, nope. Judge won't stay Bannon's trial. And I will get to the apparent swatting at Stephen Bannon's house last week. A judge, this is from, what is that, Peacock News? I don't know what it is. NBC? So you know it's got to be good. Washington, a judge said Monday that he would not delay the contempt of Congress trial for Steve Bannon just 1 week before it was set to begin. Bannon was indicted last year for refusing to answer questions from Congressional Committee investigation of the Jan 6 attack on the Capitol. Yet Bannon, who has stonewalled the committee since October 2021, stonewalled the committee because he made certain statements, all hell's going to break loose, and he stonewalled them by whatever relevance he could have had to the alleged insurrection. He stonewalled them. Steve Bannon has a podcast, hosts The War Room. Stonewall, because Steve Bannon has all the secrets, has all the information that is necessary to unlocking critical evidence as relates to the events of January 6th. Stonewall the committee had a last-minute change of heart over the weekend. A decision his lawyer attributed to a letter from former President Donald Trump that waived purported claim of executive privilege. The Justice Department maintains that Bannon's offer to testify was nothing more than a last-ditch effort to avoid accountability. Here, this is the interesting catch. Trump's own lawyer, Justin Clark, according to the Justice Department, told the FBI that Trump never invoked executive privilege over any particular information or materials and offered no basis for Bannon's, quote, total noncompliance with the subpoena. So then that's it. So Justice Carl Nichols. Now we're just going to go out on a limb here and just do one thing. Let's see. Judge was appointed. He was appointed. Who appointed him? Uh-oh. We are having the wheel of death. Let's just see if we can. Okay. He was appointed to the bench. Wait, this is a judge. Come on. Let's just see. Appointed by Donald Trump, preceded by Richard Roberts. So this is a Trump attorney. This is a Trump, unless I've mistaken something. This is a Trump appointee. Let's go back to this. It says we're not doing it. You're going to go to trial regardless. And they're not delaying the trial. And they're saying he never benefited from executive privilege. It was all a ploy. And we want justice. And the question is going to be, what are the chances in the name of my kids just came back and I can hear them screaming in the background. What in the name of, what are the chances in the name of all things holy, Steve Bannon is going to get a fair trial in DC? So the judge is not going to allow, let me just bring this back up. One day I'll figure out how all of this works. Share screen. I think I've just closed. No, judge won't delay it. Here we go. Not delaying it. Judge Nichols issued a series of rulings on motions preparing for the trial, which largely did not go Bannon's way, including knocking out several potential defenses he had raised. After the judge concluded, Bannon lawyer Stephen Schoen said in the courtroom, "What is the point of going to trial if there are no defenses?" Don't ask rhetorical questions to the judge, because those don't tend to work out well. Nichols agreed, suggesting Bannon's team consider that. What are the point of going to trial if there are no defenses? Then plead guilty if he's guilty. If there's no defenses, he's guilty. Not exactly the type of rhetorical question you want to be asking a judge who's not siding with you by and large. Nichols, who previously ruled that Bannon could not argue that he was not guilty because he was relying upon the advice of his lawyer, ruled Monday that Bannon cannot present evidence that he relied upon old opinions from the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel regarding executive privilege either. This is curious to me, how you can be denied legal arguments in defense, as if professional reliance is not pretty much always a defense. How can you limit what was in the mind of the individual when the mens rea, the intent to commit the criminal act, is essential to a criminal conviction? While expressing frustration with the precedent he is bound by, Nichols emphasized how low the bar was in the Bannon case. The government had only to illustrate that Bannon's decision was deliberate and intentional and not by accident. Yeah, except deliberate and intentional would be for the actus reus, the mens rea as to whether or not he intended or was relying on. Actus reus is the act of the criminal offense. Did you perform the actual act? And then the mens rea is, did you intend to perform it when you performed it? And I guess the reliance on professional advice will fit into the mens rea. But if you're not allowed to say, well, I was relying on professional advice, interesting. But what are the chances that Bannon's going to get a fair trial in DC now that we've seen how jury and all but one of the judge trials, as relates to the January 6th defendants, have gone down? What are the chances? They're I'll say minimal. Okay, hold on one second. We got a super chat here. Bunglebush says, Barnes is amazing, but I do take issue with his comments about gun violence in Japan. You can't compare the two. If American could put the genie back in the bottle, I think gun violence would go down. Well, it's the meme. Like the issue with gun violence in Japan, there is some, but I mean, I suspect it's largely, well, first of all, it is exceedingly rare, as is violence in general in Japan. So the issue is Not that gun violence is exceedingly low in Japan. It's that all violence is exceedingly low in Japan, as it is in Singapore, for example. The question is, why? Then you take violence in the US, not just gun violence. Violence in the US is higher than Canada, 3 times higher than Canada, higher than other countries. The question is why? And if people want to say, well, more restrictive gun laws solve the problem, then all you need to do is look at South America with some exceedingly strict gun laws and the highest gun violence pretty much in the world. And then you go to other countries which have other types of violence. Violence is the issue. The tool of the violence is a separate issue. And then, the question is, once you are at a certain state of reality, that being 380 million firearms already in circulation, what's the solution? Especially when the problem typically being most gun violence is committed in Canada and in the US with procurement of firearms that might have already been restricted. And so the existing laws are out there. They're just not being enforced necessarily properly or effectively. But okay, total sidestep. Don't rub the subscreen into the eye any further. It's gone away now. I'm better. Phoenix, Arizona constitutional carry state has had 19 homicides so far this year. Peel, Toronto has had 18. Guns aren't the problem. We need to know respective populations of Phoenix, Arizona to Peel, Toronto. But no, Peel, Toronto, for anybody who doesn't know, is in Toronto. Toronto has seen a surge in gun crime, as has Montreal. Rivière-des-Prairies, I hope it's south of Montreal. I'm not sure exactly. I forget where it is. Rivière-des-Prairies has had so much violence that residents say they're afraid to go out now. Vancouver has always had a pretty bad violence. In Canada, it's virtually all committed with unlawfully procured firearms, smuggled black market firearms. What sense then does it make to prohibit law-abiding citizens from procuring firearms? Arguably none, unless you could demonstrably prove that the black market of firearms involved in crimes in Canada were stolen from lawful gun owners, which you can't show because it's not the case. So the policy has to be the solution has to actually resolve the issue and not just be more laws, when take the most recent incident on the 4th of July in America. You had existing laws that would have prevented the individual from procuring the firearms that the individual procured. You had a lot of other things that failed there as well, as in Uvalde. So there's that sidebar on the chat. Bannon's going to trial next week. Apparently limiting the defenses that he can raise, including, by the sounds of it, reliance on former opinions, reliance on advice of counsel. We'll see what happens. Given all of the outcomes, virtually all of the outcomes by jury trial on January 6th defendants, given the outcome of the acquittal of Michael Sussman, DC looks like not the Wild West of legal processes, but it looks like something of a banana republic of court hearings. The political ideology will result in exceedingly harsh sentences, convictions, and the most surprising of acquittals when there's political alignment of the accused with the jury. 90+% Democrat stronghold in DC. So you can pretty much assume that 9 of the 10 jurors, it'll be 11.3 of the 12 are going to be Democrats. So Steve Bannon will be following it. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, what do we got here? Violence is not a tool issue. It is a cultural and socioeconomic issue caused by many factors no single silver bullet can fix, a la Lysanthrope. I absolutely agree with that. And it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. And it's not a mystery why violence in Canada is currently on a radical uptick. It's not a mystery why violence in certain states, in certain cities, is radically on the uptick. Okay, so that's Steve Bannon. And we've got a guest coming at 5 o'clock, so we'll get to the other stuff first. Hold on, let me just go see what we got on the Rumbles to see if I've missed anything there. Other than that, everybody, how is everybody else doing out there? How's everybody doing? Let's just see in the chat. Listen to the world shape changer. Oh, did he call me Elizabeth Thorpe? Okay. But no, it's there's no question violence is related to a number of factors, and the tool is somewhat incidental. And when you have those other aggravating factors, then you don't necessarily want total access to the most lethal of firearms. I'm not going to call them weapons, but if you want the argument against gun control solving gun violence, look at Mexico, look at Venezuela. Then people are going to say, well, that's not a gun issue, that's a corruption issue. Yeah. And then some people are going to say, well, look, the violence, there may be a common tool, but the common thread might be socioeconomic conditions and other issues. And you look at Canada, some of the strictest gun laws that I know of, and there's an uptick in gun violence, so much so you're seeing the government PSAs now. And it's not because law-abiding citizens are having their guns stolen. And it's not because the gun laws are not there. It's because on the one hand, when there are legitimate, absolute, bona fide red flags, a la Nova Scotia, nobody does anything. Police response is incompetent, which exacerbates the tragedy itself. And then on the other hand, black market, smuggled in, illegally obtained, illegally procured, and illegally possessed. Okay. Speaking of illegal possession of firearms, I'm going to pull up the tweet, and then we're going to 4chan has cracked Hunter Biden's laptop or cell, I forget which. And there's videos, one after the other, floating around. I'm not sharing the videos, not because a number of reasons. First of all, I don't want to get caught again sharing something which is out of context, outdated, not from the actual whatever. And also, drug addiction is its own problem. Incidentally, the ODs and the drug addiction, I call it a phenomenon of the worst type in Canada and the US. Addiction is a serious problem. The fact that it's the current sitting president's son makes it, it's family things are family things. And the vast majority of the time, to the extent it doesn't implicate other people, it's a family issue. Hunter Biden's drug problem is not the issue here. It's everything else. And it's the fact that this has been known. I mean, I guess this has been the best kept secret until it's no longer a kept secret. It's not the drug addiction necessarily in and of itself. It's the prostitutes. It's the felony acquisition and disposal of a firearm. People don't necessarily remember this. Hunter Biden lied on his application to procure a firearm. And then once procured through a felonious application to obtain it, felonious misrepresentations on a gun application, it was either his girlfriend or wife, then illegally disposed of it by dumping it in a dumpster. You want to talk about how people find firearms to commit crimes with? They find them in dumpsters because people feloniously dispose of feloniously procured firearms by dumping them in dumpsters. It's not just that. It's not prostitutes and crime. I'm a lawyer by trade and training. I don't think I would be comfortable accepting a position on an energy company that paid me $50,000 a month, because I don't think I would have the requisite expertise to necessarily warrant that. But that might be because I'm a little insecure about my knowledge, and other people might say, Viva, you might be worth it. And it's not to say that Hunter, as an individual, by some essence of his being, is not worth it. It's just to say that it looks kind of uber suspicious. This man is a known drug addict of many years with many other problems, with no, that I'm aware of, track record of success in any meaningful sense that could ever justify a position as a paid executive on a Ukrainian energy company that pays $50,000 a month, but for the connection that brings to the White House when Biden was VP. So it's not the drug addiction on its own. Prostitutes, criminality, corruption, selling the artwork. I mean, people might have actually forgotten about the artwork scandal. Hunter Biden and all of this getting paid $50,000 a month to be on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian energy company, as if he has any credentials to justify that, other than father VP access to the White House. Where was the listen to this. The Guardian, always asking the important questions. Is Hunter Biden's art project painting the president into an ethical corner? Is Hunter Biden's art project painting the president into an ethical corner? It was another starry night in Hollywood in a white-walled room at a gallery where a lone violinist played before a Project Animation musician Moby. Artist Shepard Fairey and Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti reportedly mingled with about 200 guests. On display were artworks that combine canvas, Yupo paper, metal and wood with oil, acrylic, ink, and written word. By the way, this is from... How do they not make the date? From October 2021. Organizers hope they will sell for up to $500,000, unusually high for an emerging artist. But then this artist also happens to be the son of the President of the United States. I mean, we're literally in real time looking at imagine for 1 second that this was Donald Trump Jr. Imagine that this was one of the offspring of Donald Trump. Drug addict, the media would not have had sympathy on what addiction is. Who was so addicted to drugs, had to have dental surgery. From what I understand, we're still not sure who paid for that dental surgery. Who managed to find himself on the executive board of directors of a corrupt international or foreign energy company, getting paid $50,000 a month while his dad was VP. Who's selling his artwork for up to $500,000 at auctions. It's for a good cause. Anonymous, by the way. Prostitutes, felony gun acquisition and disposition. And the media is silent. The White House is silent. They're too busy rewriting history to rewrite Justin Trudeau's gaffe into reality. Let me repeat the line. And intelligence covering it up. This hack happened pre-2020 election. Intelligence had the laptop, did nothing with it, although they did something with it. The media blocked the story. The media big tech blocked the story. The media lied about the story, called it Russian disinformation. This is really, without using hyperbolic terms, this is a crime syndicate that is being covered up by intelligence, by media, and by the government itself. And I say, like, as a thought experiment, just imagine what Vladimir Putin must be thinking looking at this. Just imagine what Vladimir Putin must be thinking, even if it were not in a world where everyone is looking at Putin, calling him a corrupt autocratic dictator. Set all of that hypocrisy aside. And again, this is not a defense of Putin. This is an attack on the Trudeaus who call him a corrupt dictator. This is an attack on the Bidens who call Putin a corrupt dictator. But just imagine what Putin is thinking looking at this. You have literal criminality all the way up to the White House. Corruption of the highest order. Forget it. Oh, what was the other one, actually? Hold on. There was an even more amazing one. Not the analysis of the hard drive. Where is there was an article detailing how much money Hunter Biden through his firm. Oh yeah, here we go. Took Listen, look at this. Just want to make sure we're all seeing this. It's not just $500,000 for paintings, covering up felonies, covering up hookers, prostitution, illegitimate children. This is now what's coming out of the hard drive that the FBI was not looking into. Just, minor information. Analysis of Hunter Biden's hard drive. What date are we in now? May 19, 2022. Analysis of Hunter Biden's hard drive shows his firm, took in about $11 million from 2013 to 2018, spent it fast. Well, we've seen from some videos today what he might have been spending it on to spend that much money that fast. It's that fun thought experiment. If you had to spend $10 million, but you couldn't buy real estate, gold, or how could you even spend $11 million? But the hard drive and documents from Senate Republicans indicate few of Biden's deals ever came to fruition and shed light on how fast he was spending money. From 2013 through 2018, Hunter Biden and his company brought in about $11 million via his role as attorney and a board member with a Ukrainian firm accused of bribery and his work with a Chinese businessman now accused of fraud, according to an NBC News analysis of a copy of Biden's hard drive and iCloud account and documents released by Republicans on 2 Senate committees. The documents and analysis, which don't show what he did to earn millions from his, probably because he didn't do anything but have or give or grant access to the White House. Probably nothing. And I don't know what you have to do to be worth $11 million. Value added. Value added. I guess the question is just, what is that value? In December, and set aside the lies. Joe Biden didn't know anything about what his son was doing. I mean, it's lies, cover-ups. But when the White House gets away with literally lying to you by rewriting the transcript of a speech to say, let me repeat the phrase. Let me repeat the line. I forget what the exact. They get away with it. They don't get called out on it. And God, more importantly, they don't get sanctioned or nobody gets penalized for it. I mean, that punishment is for one side of the aisle. Forgiveness is for the other. Scrutiny is for one side of the aisle. Turning a blind eye is for the other. In December 2020, Biden acknowledged in a statement that he was the subject of a federal investigation into his taxes. NBC News was first to report that an ex-business partner had warned Biden he should amend his tax returns to disclose $400,000 in income from the Ukrainian firm Burisma. Is that 10% for the big guy or is that for the little guy? GOP congressional sources also say that if Republicans take back the House this fall, they'll demand more documents and probe whether any of Biden's income went to his father, Joe Biden. Okay, fine. So that was for the little one. Just imagine looking at this and then actually having to sit there with a straight face while Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau calls you a corrupt dictator. Putin might be a corrupt dictator, and it might take one to know one. And my goodness, I mean, it's just shocking. And it's not a Tom Clancy novel. It's not an idiocracy comedy. It's reality. Joe Biden's son has been known for years, covered up, protected by the intelligence of the United States. And by the way, when they talk about once upon a time, what might Russia and China have on Trump and the Trump family that they could use to extort him? Can you imagine how this could be used to extort or procure favors when foreign interests, China, Russia, have videos of the vice president's son smoking crack, having sex with hookers, and financial information about business dealings with allegedly corrupt energy companies in Ukraine, allegedly corrupt Chinese business partners? Imagine how they could use that. And more important than that, imagine how, to the extent we know that intelligence had this information, imagine how intelligence can use it. Be a shame if you wouldn't want to disband the FBI. It'd be a shame if people saw those videos that we now have that we're protecting. on that laptop that shop owner gave to us. The Hunter Biden, drug addiction is a problem, period. Drug addiction leads to a number of problems: mental illness, criminality, no question. The issue here is not the drug addiction. It's the fact that everybody is covering up serious corruption, serious criminality, that if there's anything that could ever compromise the independence of an elected official, it's knowing that intelligence has videos of your son smoking crack and having sex with hookers and engaged in potentially corrupt conduct. Lord knows what would happen if foreign interests had that. But almost a bigger risk, if not a bigger risk, than foreign interests having this dirt on you is the deep state having this dirt on you. It could certainly cause one to guide one's decisions in such a way so as to please these interests. So they continue to investigate. And in so investigating, they continue to cover up, suppress, and then go after anybody who might have anything to do with releasing that information to the public. It's serious. And Putin might be the most corrupt, the most autocratic dictator on earth. But if he is, he's tied with a number of other corrupt, autocratic dictators who feign transparency while conducting themselves under the utmost of secrecy and corruption. How can you limit professional reliance? Viva, my sweet summer child, you are only limited by your imagination on what you can or cannot allow when you choose to ignore the law. Or better yet, just make up law as you go. Britt Cormier. Look, I still refuse to give in to full cynicism, but I'm not far. I'm not far away. Violence is not a tool issue. It is a culture. Oh, sorry, we got that one as well. And can we petition Fox News, Mr. Ducey, to ask the White House press secretary why Hunter referred to his dad as... This is another thing, by the way, and I'm reluctant to have the thought, but I have the thought. It's also, you're not going out on a limb. Being a perfect parent does not mean you're going to have perfect children. It does not mean your children are going to choose the healthy path in life or a successful. Doesn't mean happiness for your children or success for your children. Being an absolute deadbeat, abusive, neglectful parent also similarly does not mean that your child is going to grow up to be, let me rephrase, cannot grow up to be the most successful, well-rounded individual on earth. There is just, a question of probability. You like golf. An amateur hack can get a hole-in-one, and a professional can go their entire lives without getting a hole-in-one. But when you are consistent in your swing, chances are you increase the likelihood of your ball landing within a certain vicinity of where you're swinging. So being a decent parent, a thoughtful, loving parent who's there and attentive, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it certainly increases the odds, or at the very least, the trajectory. Being an absolute deadbeat does not doom a child to anything, but it certainly makes it more difficult. It makes it, a little more difficult for the child to succeed. And there are tendencies and there are stats, and you can look into them. I look and I do ask myself, what on earth occurred in that family that could potentially explain the outcome of it's a sad outcome for Hunter, and it's a sad outcome for Ashley. What could have happened? That and it's, again, Joe could have been the perfect father. There was early trauma from the death of the mother. There's no question. So, I ask that question, but in a non-judgmental way, and I make sure that it's clear that it's in a non-judgmental way. Trauma can lead to lifelong issues. Hurt people. Trauma leads to trauma. But then there's also a number of other things that one can reasonably ask questions about, which could explain what we're witnessing in real time. I see some chats, which I'm not going to bring up, but that refer to the Ashley Biden diary, which led to the prosecution, or dare say the persecution, of Project Veritas. It's all an amazing perfect circle. Now I'm thinking Happy Gilmore. It's a circle, Happy. Ride the wave. Go, I don't even know what it is. It's a circle. Ashley Biden diary and the allegations of what's in that diary. Personal, private, family matters, which could nonetheless still be criminal. Does the FBI go after the content of the diary? No. They go after Project Veritas in conjunction with the New York Times leaking information, intelligence leaking information to the media, and then coming in with pre-dawn raids. Instead of looking into the actual criminality, instead of looking into the potential criminality, they go after the people who reveal it. The leaker of the laptop, Project Veritas, and it goes on. And then there was one other thing which I said I'm gonna get to before we bring in the guest, because I see my guest in the backdrop. Steve Bannon, I forgot to mention it. Yeah, just a coincidence. 3 days ago. When is this from? July 9th. Police swarmed Steve Bannon's DC home after receiving a false report that an armed man shot someone inside. That's called being swatted, people. Police on Friday swarmed Trump advisor Steve Bannon's home in Washington. My goodness. Bad things seem to happen to Steve Bannon. Criminal prosecution for contempt of Congress. Cops showing up again after his dramatic, I think he was arrested dramatically as well. Washington Post reported the police showed up heavily armed in response to what appears to have been a swatting attempt. Swatting, yada, yada, yada. Police received the tip claiming a man was with a gun inside Stephen Bannon's home. Yeah. Anyway, I guess it's good that the cops show up. And I guess it's just a coincidence that this happened to Steve Bannon. All right, let me get to the stream here. All right, people, that's going to be it for the American stuff for now. Now we're going to go to some Canadian stuff. Although I think CRT, critical race theory, I think this is trickle up from the United States. A lot of influence in Canada is trickled up from the United States. And I think that Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau have taken a lot of their divisive politics and they've been influenced by what we've seen in terms of divisive identity politics in the States. And they've absorbed it and they are applying it to Canada. And so apparently Chantal Fall, and she's going to tell me if I'm pronouncing her name right, but I believe I am because I love last names and I'm going to ask her what the origin of the last name is. An Ontario teacher who is being investigated for social media posts criticizing critical race theory. I guess you could say she's critical of CRT. Okay. So bringing her, I've never met her before, never said hi to her before. Just got a text message from her about an hour and a half ago. So this is going to be new for all of us, people. Oh, Chanel, I said Chantal. Chanel, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Let me see if the audio is good before we go any further.
I have earbuds, so if that's better.
Oh, no, I'll see if anyone complains about echo.
Yeah.
But let's see. So someone says German lessons. Oh, sorry. No, that's not about your last name. That's about other stuff.
My last name is German, though.
What does Fall mean?
I think it means post.
Okay. Someone says good enough. Put in the earbud and see if it's got the mic, maybe it's going to be better. Ooh, that's better.
Is it better? Yeah. Okay, good.
Well, let me see what the chat says. One is a little more tinny. The other one's a little more echoey. Good to me.
I'll move my hair.
So, and it is fall and not pafal.
Yeah, fall, like the season. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Let me see here. Chat, let us know. Better. Okay, much better. Booyah.
Awesome.
Consensus. Chanel. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I've never met you before. I don't want to ask how old you are, but I think it might be relevant. You're in your late 20s, early 30s?
I'm 29, yeah.
29. Tell her 30,000-foot overview before I get into some questions. Who are you and what's going on with your life right now?
Well, so I'm a high school teacher. I taught science for a couple years, and I guess about a year ago, I was thrown into a bit of a political drama, let's say. And yeah, so here I am. I'm not working at the moment. I'm just, I guess, trying to battle a few of these illiberal ideas that have crept their way into the education system. And
So 20, I will not get into too much of your family history just because it's not going to be that relevant, but just born and raised from Ontario?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Ottawa, studied up
Okay.
in Sudbury.
And you have a degree which leads to teaching.
I majored in biology and then I did my teacher's college. So yeah.
Okay. And how long had you been teaching for before this incident occurred?
4 years. Well,
4 years.
I was in my 4th year. Yeah.
At which, where were you working?
I was working up in Barrie, Ontario, just an hour north of Toronto there.
All right. Now, hold on. We got someone in the house. Mitt says, I am also a teacher in Ottawa English Catholic Board. We have had 4 trainings on CART this year. Chanel, let me know how I can help. Okay. So I guess we got to start from the very beginning and just get clear on our terms. You had been teaching for 4 years prior to this event. So 4 years up to last year.
Yeah. So I quit in August of this year. Due to some other stuff happening, but I am under investigation currently. And the reason is I put a comment up on a private Facebook group that said that we should not indoctrinate kids with critical race theory. It was a group full of teachers. You actually had to verify that you were a teacher to actually get into the group. So it was private. And
this is the I'm gonna pull up the post. I think we're looking at the post right now. Posted a comment. So I'll read this for the chat. As the complainant, this is the investigation that you're under, and I have some questions as to what type of investigation this is. A member of the college alleges that Chanel, employed by, I guess we don't talk about that, as a teacher at on or around February 13, February 14, 2021, in response to a question posted by a teacher on the online forum of a private Facebook group entitled Ontario Teachers, Resource and Idea Sharing, about lessons ideas for Black History Month. Posted a comment, quote, kids aren't in school to be indoctrinated with critical race theory. Schools should be nonpartisan, focus on modeling kindness to everyone, and speak out against any form of discrimination you see. This includes the discrimination brought on by anti-racist movements, i.e. all white people are racist. In some places, example Britain, it is now illegal to teach CRT without offering a balanced opposing view. And another one, posted on a YouTube video, oh my goodness, they really got you, entitled, Teachers Presenting White Privilege as Facts Are Breaking the Law, Warns Minister, in which a British member of parliament named Kemi Badenoch states, among other things, that, quote, critical race theory is an ideology that sees my blackness as victimhood and their whiteness as oppression. I want to be absolutely clear. The government stands unequivocally against critical race theory. We do not want to see teachers teaching their white pupils about white privilege and inherited racial guilt. And let me be clear, any school which teaches these elements of critical race theory as fact or which promotes political views, such as defunding the police without offering a balanced treatment of opposing views, is breaking the law. You posted a comment on that video.
I posted the link to that video.
Okay.
So those are the two things they're investigating me for right now. It's been since March of this year that the Ontario College of Teachers is investigating me for those 2 comments. But I've actually been investigated for those comments by my school board. So the comment was made in 2021, February 2021. So I was investigated by my school board. I was suspended for a week without pay. And then I thought that whole thing was over. And now, almost, I guess, a year later, I got the letter from the Ontario College of Teachers telling me that I'm under investigation again for the same thing. So
let me ask you have a lawyer, correct, in this?
Yeah, I'm represented by the Democracy Fund. Thank you.
Because I want to ask certain questions. But I don't want to get you in trouble if I ask too many questions. Had you ever been disciplined before?
No.
Okay. So you had not. It's not like you're not that I know of. You're not a troublesome, problematic teacher. Clean record. These are posted in a private Facebook community. Who's in that private Facebook community?
I think it was about 100,000. Okay, maybe I'm completely off, but it was all Ontario teachers.
Okay.
And there was a lot of them.
And they're talking about how to celebrate Black History Month.
Yeah, so my problem wasn't necessarily celebrating Black History Month, but it was the person who posted the comment was looking specifically for Black Lives Matter resources. So she wanted to present the movement probably in a way that was encouraging it and taking sides, I guess. So that was my issue with it. Someone wants to teach about it, but also offer countering views, that's fine. But I think impartiality has to be brought back into the school system, and I don't know what's happening right now, but it's not good.
This is another thing I'm curious about. Do I want to ask? You quit, so you didn't get fired by the school,
No,
or is this a case of like they made life so unpleasant you just had to leave?
no, actually, it's like the opposite of that. I have some health stuff going on, so that's the reason that I quit. Otherwise, I would have definitely stayed until they fired me. But unfortunately, I couldn't do that. So
Okay.
yeah.
And so, what is for? I upped your audio a little bit. Some people said it might have been a little soft, so I didn't go too much. What is the environment like? You've been teaching for 4 years before this incident. Other than this, I mean, did you notice or were you noticing examples of what people would refer to as CRT, critical race theory, in the actual programs of schools?
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's you can't get away from it. From the letters that you get from the school board, that they send to the parents and stuff, the government publications, the hallways, the posters in the hallways, the morning announcements. It's all over the place, and it's just seen as the moral thing to do. I don't think it's even viewed as political. It's just is what it is, and nobody really questions it. It's very bizarre.
Do they don't call it CRT? They just, what do they call this? Like racial awareness, racial sensitivity?
I think they just call it diversity, like equity,
And inclusion.
things like that. Yeah, anti-racism too is big.
Yeah. So I mean, you're in Ontario, where did they pass that bill, the anti-racist bill that was going to amend the Education Act?
No, so that bill was stopped, thankfully. But I've heard that I forget her name. She's an NDP, candidate or whatever, and she's the one who drafted the bill, and she's going to probably try to pass it again.
Yeah, actually, I'm totally seeing now. But I had Jim and Belinda Carajalios on the channel, and they were the ones, or Belinda was the one who took note of it, made it popular, and then caused it to be not pursued. But I presume that they're going to go for a second kick at the can. So what are there teachers who speak out about this in school? Like, what is the sentiment within the schooling system of teachers who say, this is ridiculous and actually counterproductive? Like, are there people who say that? Do they talk quietly, or do they just shut up and follow?
I have yet to see anyone speak against it. And I'm not there now, obviously. I think things have ramped up quite a bit. So maybe there is some opposition growing. I don't really know. But from what I've seen, people just kind of stay quiet about it. The coworkers that I had at the school that I worked at, there's maybe one or two that have reached out to me. The other ones just ignore me. Most of them have deleted me off social media. So it's been quite the experience.
Actually, you know what? I flagged that question here. Is she getting support or ridicule from teachers? Well, so mostly ghosting, or are you getting any? I mean, I imagine you're getting love, but from your colleagues, love or hate, or just ghosting?
From my colleagues, it's either they delete me or they ignore me. A very small minority of them have reached out, but they do so in a private manner. And they tell me specifically they don't even want to like my post. They don't want to do anything like that because they know exactly the environment that they're in. So I don't know. It's really hard to say how many of them are actually, they see what's happening and they're holding their tongues.
I'm trying to understand this. All the teachers, it doesn't matter. All the teachers in Ontario, or a lot of them, Teachers of Ontario private Facebook group. You say, you make that post. This is not for the public to see. It's only for teachers to discuss among themselves. First of all, I'm dying to know, the second you hit send, do people respond to that post within the private Facebook community?
Yeah. It was.
And what happens?
So
you're racist and everything, shame on you, or like just a pile on?
I was trying to uphold white supremacy in schools, and they were questioning like, "Are you even a teacher? What are you doing? Like, she doesn't speak for everyone. Blah blah blah. Wow, oh my God, I can't believe it. Blah blah blah." It was really something because to me, teachers should be the ones that are so open-minded that they can actually argue against something if they don't, if they oppose it. Like I have no problem with them disagreeing with me. They could come at me with arguments, but instead it was just like a shaming thing going on. So it's pretty sad to see.
Look, I'm going to ask the question if you know the answer. I'm curious, but demographically of the teachers, do you notice the attacks? Are they coming from, do you notice any demographic from which the attacks are coming? And my obvious question is, are these attacks of you being a white supremacist racist coming from white teachers, minority teachers, or were you not able to gather enough information on that?
Yeah, I wasn't able to gather enough information on those specific people that commented, but I would say that in general, like obviously there's outliers, but I think in general it's white young liberals who have been to university and then they're radicalized and they want to reshape society to this utopia that's never going to happen.
Because I'm familiar with social media. I live on it. I know I could have predicted what would happen. Are you flabbergasted at the responses you get?
Well, not really, because I've been reading about this for a long time. Well, I guess not that long, but I've studied it very much. I've read James Lindsay and Gadsad and Jordan Peterson and all these things. So I know exactly the environment that I'm in. I wasn't necessarily surprised to have the backlash that I did. I'm just surprised that the Ontario College of Teachers isn't looking at this complaint and like trashing it. They're actually investigating me for it. That to me is very surprising.
But if you've read Gadsad and you've listened to or read Jordan Peterson, you could have potentially predicted it. But tell me, how does it feel when it actually happens to you in real time? How do you feel? Angry, scared, or outraged?
Like you mean at the moment that it was happening?
Yeah, at the moment you start seeing people reacting vitriolically to your post.
Well, I remember that night. I knew when I said the comment that there might be backlash, and I was ready to pay the cost for the comment that I made. So I was at peace with the comment that I made, so that was fine. But I remember that night I went for a long walk with my dog, and I called my dad, and who's a huge fan of yours, by the way, and and I told him
he's a smart man.
Yeah. And I told him like, so I put this comment up and there's a chance that things are going to go really badly. And if they do, like, I can move in with you, right? Like there's a plan B, right? And he was like, oh yeah, we'll deal with it. Hopefully nothing happens, but if it does, we will deal with it, and he was so supportive. So
most important question, what kind of dog do you have?
a German Shepherd.
Okay, I don't like shepherds because they're too smart for me. I prefer. Where's my dog? My Westie sleeping behind me. Okay, so you could anticipate it. Did you get any death threats, or this is coming from a private group of teachers, so none of them are quite that extreme? Just hatred.
Yeah, well, I actually left the group within 15 minutes, so I was like, okay, well, this is not good. So I got out of the group, but yeah, since then I've been quite vocal on Twitter and stuff because I think, if this is happening right now, like this is a huge issue and I'm willing to sacrifice to fight back against it. And so I've been speaking about it quite openly, and I've gotten some pretty like bad stuff come in, but they think they're acting for the good of society, which is quite strange.
Yes, it's a tyranny always close to self and benevolence. So you leave within 15 minutes, and I'm like hearing Ron Burgundy in my head. Well, that escalated quickly. So you're out after 15 minutes. What happens in like the hours, weeks, and months after the post, and then leading into the investigation into that post?
Okay, so the next day at school, when I was leaving, I got a letter that said that I was under investigation. And from there, I didn't really know why. I didn't know what was going on. But anyway, it ended up being a month-long investigation. I met with the school board once. A representative from the school board asked me some questions, and I defended my position. And then I kind of thought it would just be fine, because there's nothing I said that was hateful or discriminatory or anything like that. And a week after I spoke to the representative, I was given I met with them, and they told me I was suspended for a week. I couldn't go on school property. I couldn't message teachers. I couldn't, or like my colleagues, I couldn't message parents at all. I was to communicate with nobody and not show up to work for a week without pay. And
If I
then,
may, did they motivate that with any justification, or did they? It was just, here's the punishment.
So yeah, there was like 3 things that they listed in the letter. The first, so there was, I made a comment about visible minorities. That's the one that related to the comments that I made in the group. And there was also 2 other things that they kind of threw in there, which are irrelevant. Like they're not, they don't have anything to do with wokeism. But I guess, I don't know, they dug up whatever they could, and
And so, suspended a week, no pay, tarnished record. After, there's nobody coming in here. After the week, what happens?
After the week,
What's the word I'm looking for? After the week of after the suspension? Sorry, after the week suspension.
Yeah. So I've been dealing with health issues now for like 2 years, and at this point, it was, I guess it would have been April by the time I went back to work, and I actually got written off for the whole year, so I wasn't even back. So that year was really tough. Like I went on sick leave like 4 times. So I guess that might have been a motivator to get me out as well. I don't know, but yeah. So I wasn't there in person. I would have loved to be there in person just to see how people would react, but.
It's yeah. I mean, very glad you stood up for yourself. I mean, the comment. I tried to pull it up so we could read it again. I mean, for anybody to say that there's anything offensive or targeting any individual with anything, it's as though it's like that the video you mentioned says, it's like a black person to say, don't tell me that I'm a victim by my color, and don't tell me that someone else is a victimizer by their color. That's hatred now. It's if you deny that you're racist, it's hatred, and it singles out. It's insanity. But let me ask you the indiscreet question. Do you have a fundraiser or anything where people can support you financially or for lawyer fees if they wanted to?
There are some fundraisers. I know Rebel News had started one up, and and then there's the Democracy Fund that you can donate to directly, but I don't have anything, any kind of personal fundraisers. It's just, I'm represented by the charity, and if you want to donate to them, then yeah, that would be great. But yeah.
Right. Or we'll talk afterwards about a Give, Send, Go campaign that you can do yourself. Okay, so they suspend you. You don't go back. And how long afterwards do you find out that you're being investigated, and by which entity at this point?
So then a year and a month later, so March 2022, just a couple months ago, I get an email from the Ontario College of Teachers, so the regulatory body for all teachers in Ontario, and it tells me that I'm under investigation for because I made the 2 comments, the one about not indoctrinating, and the link that I posted to the video.
Okay, and
of a black woman who wants to be the Prime Minister of the UK now. She put in her.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what the potential sanctions of this investigation are if they come to the conclusion that they found wrongdoing?
Well, it could go up to like revoking my license. It could be, I don't know if there's maybe fines or just a suspension or something, but anything is possible, I think. Yeah.
And what's the process on your end in terms of responding? Do you just wait and they do this while this looms over your head like a proverbial sword of Damocles, and you have to live under the fear of not knowing what can happen next year? Is there anything?
Yeah, pretty much. So
go for it. Sorry.
Like the Democracy Fund put in a response, and our defense, and then I guess now we'll see what happens. It could take a few months to hear back, but I think the process is the punishment in these kind of cases.
And arguably and possibly, maybe even likely, the outcome as well, where they're going to try to make an example and just try to further cull the field of free thinkers. So that's it. So what are you doing on the day-to-day now in terms of are you participating? You're more active and more vocal about your position on this?
Yeah, I've been pretty active, like vocal about it since the beginning. I just, I'm advocating for impartiality in the classroom, equality for all. I get treated as a racist for saying I want to treat everyone of any skin color the same. It's very bizarre, but yeah, I've been involved a bit in the background. I'm trying to work with FAIR, so Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, and other organizations to try to set up, organize a pushback. So I'm in contact with a lot of people, and I have a lot of teachers, especially who are reaching out to me and just supporting me, but they feel that they can't speak out. So
that's the thing about Gadsad's book, where everybody privately supports, but publicly doesn't want to take the chance because they see what happens to you, and nobody wants that to happen to them. Mm-hmm. If you had to guess, I mean, is it a lost cause, or do you think that there are more and more teachers within the system who think, I want to say think like you, but who take issue with what is going on within the system? Is it on the rise, or is it a lost cause?
I think more and more people are waking up. It's just, I don't know if they're necessarily willing to take the risk to speak up. And that's really scary. I just listened to the Jordan Peterson podcast there, where he was talking about live not by lies. And he talks about how in life, you don't get to not suffer, right? You get to choose your suffering. And to me, like, if I was still in school right now and not speaking, I would be suffering, right? I would, because my conscience would not be clear. I would have something to say and I wouldn't be saying it. So I've chosen this route. Obviously it's not it's not an easy route, but to me it's much better. And when I go to bed at night, I feel okay about myself. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. So I highly encourage people to just do it, because if everybody who's awake spoke up, this kind of stuff could be stopped, and it's not going to happen if regular people like anyone watching right now don't speak the truth.
Yeah, everybody has to read Gadsad, Parasitic Mind, Jordan Peterson. It's the idea that it has to become politically popular to actually say this is not cool, and to the point where it's reflected in politics. The only problem is, Chanel, you're few and far in between of teachers, because as an independent, it's a lot easier for someone like me to mouth off or to be contrarian, because they don't have sponsors, don't have an employer. But when you have to rely on a job and you can't go and get fired, it's not good for business type thing.
What they have to realize, though, it's only getting worse. And so it's like they can speak up now, and then maybe there's a chance that this will be reversed, or they can keep towing the line. But eventually, like, I mean, where does this go? Like, you got to think long term, I think.
Like, I mean, I don't want to be too black-pilled or cynical. I can tell you where it goes is to the gender aspect of this, and then talking about things that are not necessarily appropriate for young children, which is going to lead to further issues among children who might be confused already. And then it's going to become you're not just going to get fired for talking about it. If you're the parent and you don't talk about it the right way, at least in Quebec, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bill 15, which was removing parental supremacy from the Youth Protection Act. And I think that it's going to follow across Canada. It's going to be children dictating based on what teachers are planting as ideas in their head and not information. Long term, what is your goal? Do you plan on going back to teaching, or have you been sort of soured by the industry?
Oh my God, not at all. I would love to go back to teaching. I would, as soon as I'm healthy enough to do so, I will be really excited to get back into a classroom. Hopefully that can happen one day. This has fired me up even more. I'm really looking forward to just going back in there and, providing whatever sanity I can.
And you were teaching biology.
I was teaching general science too. Like I really like teaching grade 7, 8, 9 science. It's a really fun age. And yeah.
What, and if I may, I mean, if to the extent you can answer, what are the students saying about this? Like, you're in a school. I don't know what the demographic was. I presume it's like 95% white, just because of basing on statistics across Canada.
Yeah, probably something like that.
From a kid's perspective, if you've had the experience, if you're a black kid or you're a visible minority in a school which is vastly white to begin with, does this type of stuff make them feel more included, or does it actually make them feel more alienated?
I wouldn't really, I wouldn't know. I haven't really had conversations with students about this stuff. I tend to kind of keep my own politics out of it, but I would imagine that it doesn't help. I think that it's infantilizing in a way, and people just want to be treated as human beings. And they're kids, so they're still developing. They don't really know how to think critically yet, and that's our job. So if we're just filling them with, here's what you have to think. Here's what you have to think. And I'm not saying every teacher does that. A lot of them are quite good, but I think this kind of dynamic is happening just between the students too, like because they're on social media and they some of them really know the woke ideology very well, and they can shame others, and so it's really quite dangerous what's happening. And I think what I've noticed though as a teacher is that students are often scared to voice their opinions, and they will actually say that to me. Like sometimes if I would ask them a question and they got to write their answer rather than saying it in class, they would be a lot more upfront, and they would say, I don't like speaking my mind in front of other people. Like there's this self-censorship stuff going on, right? Because they just know that it's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that question because I just take it from my own perspective. I'm a Jewish kid. I'm a Jewish individual, and like in high school, you just want to get through the day without people even talking about it. It's like, I'm not ashamed. I'm not self-hating. I don't want to. It's like, hey, the Jew has entered the room. Ask him about his diet or his kosher food. Or the black kid entered. Let's talk about black. Like it in my view, it just continually objectifies individuals, alienates them based on their not irrelevant features in as much as they build a person as to who they are. But on a human, you don't want to keep hearing about it day in and day out. Certainly not when it perpetually singles out one individual as a perpetual victim, as if they have no autonomy. And it singles out others as perpetual victimizers when they're freaking kids. It's like, there's no original sin in my view. And it's just hold on. See here, quick, hide your shekels. I mean, it's a joke, but it's inevitably what happens when it becomes the subject of discussion. All the jokes, all the discussion ends up revolving around race, religion, identity, and not humanity. And I found it irritating when I was in a very Catholic high school, private school for a couple of years. I found it irritating. Just let me be, let us be, let everyone be.
Yeah, why the focus on identity? Like, it's so crazy. I don't know if you heard about this white privilege lesson that just kind of went a little bit viral this week.
Please tell me. I think I have, but tell everybody.
It's just incredible. Like, so it's the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, I think it's called. Anyway, they put out a lesson plan, which is called like best person in the world or something like that. So they tell teachers, okay, so this is the lesson. You go and you ask the kids to tell you who their favorite person is, who they admire or whatever. 3 people. They have to list 3 individuals and tell you why. And then, so basically the whole activity revolves around looking at the immutable characteristics of the people who were listed and saying, oh, why are there more white people than black people? Let's talk about white privilege. Or, oh, why are there more males than females? Let's talk about male privilege. That's the whole lesson. So rather than saying, hey, what is it about this person that you like? Is it their courage? Is it their kindness? Have they accomplished something really cool? That's awesome. We are obsessing over their immutable traits, and I mean, it's I don't know. I have no words. It's just crazy.
All right. Well, what do you do next now?
I don't know. I'm just going one day at a time. I'm doing what I can to push back, and hopefully things will turn around, and I'll be able to go back into a classroom, teach some science. But yeah.
Fantastic. Now, I not because I think I missed anything, Chanel. Did I miss anything that you want to mention?
Nope. Covered it all.
It's fun. I mean, when you get an update on the investigation, text me back. Keep in touch. I mean, you're if you want people following you on Twitter, what's your Twitter handle?
Oh, Chantal Fall. So it's CHANL PFA.
Chanel Fall. Chanel PFA.
Chanel, but no L. No E. Sorry. Chantal.
Oh. So CHANL. Hold on. Did I know?
Yeah.
CHANL
PFA.
PFA. And let me see if I'm not already. Now you'll see if people. So follow for updates. If here we go. Boom shakalaka. Oh, okay, good. Yes, Chan LPFA. For anybody who wants to follow, and where else can they follow you?
Nowhere really, I guess. I Twitter is my main thing. I just put out a YouTube video though a few days ago, so if you want to check that out, that'd be awesome. What's
the YouTube channel?
It's Chantal Fall. It's just my name.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have one video, so I'm a YouTuber, but
well, that can be remedied in 1 week. You can have 7 videos. So I say I'm partial to video content creation and live streaming, but this is not going away, and it does need vocal people to be out on be the tip of the spear, as we say, the Gad Sads, the Jordan Petersons, and to motivate others to do the same. Because I know what they're teaching my kids, at least what they were in Canada. We'll see what it is here next year, but. I have the discussions. I was listening to some of the Zoom classes, and I'm like, holy crab apples, we're going to talk. I'm not going to record it and dox the teachers, but we're going to have discussions, and it'll be fun dinner time stuff. But yeah, it's out there, some of the stuff.
Yeah. So you're in Florida now, right?
Yes, I at least for a few years. Well, let's see.
Okay. Yeah, lucky you. Nice.
It's fortuitous, and yeah, it's just. I mean, I've been dismayed with what's been going on in Canada for a long time, but the last 2 years, not a long time. The last 2 years have been revelatory for me. I had no idea.
Me too. Yeah.
How fast things can go down politically and socially. The amount of people in Canada who put up with a lot of this and who actually believe in a lot of it, like educated people who believe in this, born sinner type thing based on race. It's terrible. Yeah. All right, Chanel. So we will be in touch. Sorry, ordinarily I would end and we would talk, but I'm going to continue with one more story after this. But Chanel, thank you very much for coming on such short notice. Everyone, Chan, CHANL PFA on Twitter, and Chantal Fall on YouTube. And Chanel, I'm going to enter your number on my phone, and we'll keep in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you. Okay, that's phenomenal. And what I love is that people know the honey badger. People know the Gad Sad reference, and it's beautiful. She's it's amazing the idea that type of post could even make people could get you in trouble, could even make someone angry. Hey, here's an idea. Black History Month it's nice. We'll learn about other cultures. Black History Month. I don't think you have the Jewish History Month, but no shortage of public awareness of Jewish issues. Armenian, everybody should know about the Armenian genocide. Everyone should know about the histories and cultures of other races, religions, and creeds. That's what history is for. But the idea that there's inherent sin to whiteness, it's so stupid. There's no other word for it. It's so stupid because when you reduce it, it's just these. I guess intersectionalism is what it's called. Being white is its original sin, unless you're a woman, because then you're oppressed by men. So even being a white woman makes you, to some extent, a victim of some form of patriarchy. You're a white man, you're the oppressor, unless you're a gay white man, in which case you're then a victim of some form of oppression. Unless you're a Jewish white man, because then you're a religious minority, or an Armenian white man. Because I don't exactly know how it works with whiteness anymore. I got into a fight with someone, a Twitter war, as to what's white. And when they were accusing Pierre Poilievre of being a whitey or a racist, I was like, the dude married a Venezuelan. And then someone says, Venezuelans aren't white. And it's like, well, most of them are not. Most of them are Mezcado, half indigenous, half European. And then some, well, they identify as white. It's like, what the hell is going on in this world? Like now, Venezuelan, when you want to call someone a racist, if they're married to a Venezuelan, they're white for the purposes of being a racist. So if you're a white male, you're the oppressor, unless you're Jewish, unless you're gay, unless you happen to be of some other minority. How about if you're a white Catholic male in a Protestant society, or a white Protestant male in a Catholic society? There's no end to just find a way to find someone to be the oppressor and someone to be the oppressed. And now I understand the concept of Marxism, as people typically describe it, as a way of driving a wedge in society between classes. Divide and conquer. Mestizo. Thank you very much, Mestizo. I got someone telling me that Pierre Poilievre's wife, Anaïda, is Caucasian. I was like, I think it's probably more racist to deny her ancestry than it is to recognize it. But when you want to pretend that Pierre Poilievre is a racist, don't let facts get in the way of a good narrative. Oh, and that's fact. I mean, it's an interesting story. I don't think I could work in that environment. Maybe I'd be vocal and brave enough to actually influence people in that environment. I don't think I could stand those politics, because that's politics. It's not politics like politics, but it's political. It's the battle for power and the battle for influence and the battle for control within the education system. Yeah, someone says I'd be vocal. Yeah, I'd probably be vocal. I might actually change a few minds and piss off a few people. You forgot Anne. I mean, it's all absurd. It's all preposterous. No, Anne Frank would be woman, Jewish. But then sometimes, for the purpose of oppression, someone will get the right to purport to be a victim if you're Jewish, but then also you'll get to be the oppressor because you're white. It's all idiotic. My personal view is that identity politics, identity itself, it's relevant for understanding an individual. When you're having a one-on-one with someone, you want to understand what made that person who they are. Race, religion, history, all of that is very interesting. I love discussing it. I love knowing the origins of someone's last name. I love knowing where their parents came from, what they did, to understand the person. When it comes to policy, you don't make policy based on these individual immutable traits. Certainly not when what you're trying to do ostensibly or purportedly is unify and eliminate racism and eliminate discrimination. Because all you end up doing, and I've lived it, all you end up doing is alienating the very people you are purportedly trying to protect. Canada is 90-some% white. The black population in Canada, I think, is 3-point-some-odd%. It's exceedingly low. The last thing you want to do is just make someone, never let them forget that they're black, Jewish. Never let them forget that they're an identity, an ethnic minority. Never let them forget. Make them always think of it. The first thing they ever think about when they enter a room, everyone's looking at me, and all they're seeing is my ethnic, racial identity, and not me as a human. It's objectification of an individual for political purposes. Let me see what brutally honest Kanakistani. I have come to the realization that the first person to bring up race is the racist. I've always had a funny joke, is that not the only, but more often than not, what you'll find, the people who always remind you that you're Jewish, members of the community, and anti-Semites. There's always like, why are you eating that ham and cheese sandwich, Viva? If they're Jewish, it's like, you shouldn't do it. Don't break the rules. And if they're not, it's like they want to remind you. They want to remind you of your identity. So it can either be, anyhow, You know what the funny thing is? You want to talk to somebody? Someone has a last name, Freiheit. You want to know where it's from? There's an interesting history to it. If anybody, does that have to be the only discussion of everything that guides and that guides our interactions with each other? It gets very old very quickly for someone to never forget, never stop mentioning what you are. But anyhow, that's it. It's okay. End of rant. Bacon tastes good. Pork chops taste good. Bacon is delicious. The smell of bacon is delicious. When we go camping and I smell people cooking bacon on their open fires, it smells better than roasted marshmallows to me. Jennifer Cochran, hi. If you wash your eye out over a sink with milk, it will soothe the pain. Also works for pink eye. Used it for my children. Also helps styes. I've never gotten styes. I once got pink eye from pressure washing windows, and some of the dirt got into my eye. It was extremely painful and extremely disgusting. But no, I've stopped sweating, but although I'm still glistening. You always miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and statistically 95% of the ones you do. I love it. I love it. James Webb, about to unlock the secrets of the universe. Scientists hope to discover a legitimate 2020. Okay. You had me there. I am also a teacher. Okay, I got to this one. And I'll put up the links for, I'm going to talk to Chanel about starting a Give, Send, Go. The literature on it suggests it alienates and makes people more racist. This is studied. Granted, those studies seem to be ignored. No, that's anyone who's lived it knows the experience. But it's very annoying when people constantly bring up your race, religion, creed, and other identifiable factors. It's almost like it's very annoying. Can we stop making that joke now? Oh no, I'm interested. Tell me about it. Tell me about your Hanukkah. Leave it. I mean, stop it. Stop it. It's just. If you believe ethnicities are species, you are racist in plain terms. If you believe ethnicities are, the other thing is, hey, how about you just if it's a question of rectifying a historical atrocity, in as much as historical atrocities or historical injustices can ever be remedied, that's one discussion. But there's my personal view. It's something I've been thinking of. If in order to remedy a historical injustice, you have to create a present day injustice, that's not how you remedy anything. That's only how you exacerbate all the problems you are, I would say, perhaps disingenuously purporting to want to remedy. Okay. Let me see something here. There was other stuff in the backdrop that we were going to get to. That was fascinating. That was phenomenal. And stay tuned for more Canadian stuff, because I don't plan on going quietly into the Florida night as relates to the wholesale political destruction of my country. Okay, so I got this one. We would not be here but for that. Yep, that was. We don't need to go back there. Did we get to? Oh, Gerhard. So. Lucas Gerhart, the student, this is a student who was charged with making terroristic threats because of a Snapchat he sent to a friend of a photograph of his firearm with the message, I'm going to bring this up to wherever I'm going to melt some snowflakes. And someone, a third party, saw that snap, or that Snapchat, however you call it, reported it, and ruined this kid's life for the last 3 years. Now, according to, let's just get the story just so we can see this. It will blow your mind. The kid's been on house arrest for a long time. This is an article from July 2nd, 2021. LSSU. What is LSSU? Student loses appeal on terrorism threat charge. The Michigan Court of Appeals reaffirmed Chippewa County District Court's decision to charge Gerhart with making a threat of terrorism. Chippewa County, Michigan, a Lake Superior State University, who made threatening social media posts. It seems like a very inaccurate way of describing this, has lost his appeal according to court records from the Michigan State Court of Appeals. Lucas Gerhart, 21-year-old Oakland Township man, was arrested after adding an image to his story on Snapchat depicting an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. He added text stating, quote, "Taking this bad boy up, this oughta make the snowflakes melt. And from what I understand, by the way, the Snapchat was not a social media post. It was a private message with somebody else. So this seems like inaccurate or misunderstood reporting, or maybe I'm the one who misunderstood it. I don't think I misunderstood it. I think this was a Snapchat with a friend, not a social media post for the general public. Chat, if I'm wrong, please correct me. He was arrested after 2 LSSU's students reported the post to public safety and charged with making a threat of terrorism. In his appeal, Gerhard argues that the charge violates his freedom of speech. The Court of Appeals disagreed, noting the bayonet fixed to the rifle and current political context as factors in their decision. Oh, wow. Current political context. Gerhart will still face charges in Chippewa County. Okay. Read the full decision here. Let me see this. I read this once upon a time. I'm going to go read this again, but let me just give this to everybody here. So that's the story. The kid's life had, ruined is an understatement. The kid's life was destroyed. He was on house arrest for however many, a year plus, 2 years, 3 years, I think. Let me just see what the chat has to say. Dumb joke, but he doesn't deserve it. There's no question about that. It's let me see. Fun fact: Alberta is rat-free. This is true. Viva, the ought to make the snowflakes. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm looking for the chat to see if I got anything wrong there. So either way, terroristic threats. My 3 favorite people: Viva, Fry, Robert Barnes, and Nick Takeda. Okay. So he was charged with making terroristic threats. Sought to have the charge dismissed. He was on house arrest. Life ruined. Apparently, he struck a deal, which the only reporting on this is from Rakeda. It's on my Twitter feed. I can share that as well. And I'm not going to get into it, but according to Rakeda, who seems to have an inside track as to getting this information, his plea consists of not having a criminal record, being allowed to possess firearms in the future, and he has to, it's after a certain period of time, there's going to be a grace period. After a year or something, if he doesn't do anything else bad in the meantime, he'll go home, he'll go clean, scot-free. And all that he had to do was admit not to having committed a crime, but to a certain fact pattern, to certain facts. And I don't know what it is, but bottom line, he struck a plea deal. The charges are going to be dropped. He's not going to be prosecuted or continued persecuted. And that's it. But you appreciate the current political climate. Saying you're going to go melt some snowflakes, is a terroristic threat, which typically, as far as my limited Canadian lawyer understanding of a terroristic threat, a true terroristic threat, specific, credible, plausible, and I think more importantly than anything, public. Not necessarily public, actually. If you're planning with a friend privately, but the Canada I inhabit thanks you de tout cœur, from the bottom of their heart. Viva, always welcome home, according to me. Yeah, that's if I can get back home without having to go to 14 days of quarantine. Because I'll tell you one thing. I don't do well being locked up for 14 days. I don't do well not being able to run wild and free. Did his friends report the joke, or does the university eavesdrop on private conversations? My understanding, it was a friend who saw the snap and took a picture of the phone with the snap. I might be wrong. I don't think I am. So it wasn't, they were not eavesdropping or spying. Someone was. It was a third party who saw the snap, took a picture of the phone with the Snapchat, and then reported it. Oh, here we go. Okay, now. Melt snowflakes is too vague to be a threat. If melting snowflakes is a threat, well, Tom McDonald's song "Snowflakes Melt When It's Hot, Kid" I'm not even. That's not even a wish that anyone does anything stupid like that. Report Tom. No, melting snowflakes is a proverbial expression about upsetting liberals. Even I know that. And not even liberals. Insulting or offending the hypersensitive. That's what melting snowflakes means. Everybody knows it. But these judges who probably don't know what Snapchat is from an outlet. And I just said that because I saw an outlet. I literally feel like brick now, like lamp. The judges who don't know social media from an outlet in the wall probably think that's melting snowflakes. In this current political climate, that's it. I could understand that being an issue with the school in terms of issues. What's up, dude? I am almost done. Why do you ask? Yeah, I think he might have just gotten into trouble because whenever he comes in huggy. Did you just get into trouble? You sure? Okay, get out of here. I'll be out there in under 5 minutes. Go. Okay, well, that might be the cue to exit. In the current political climate, an individual who, from what I understood, never had a criminal record, never had an issue, just made a snap. And yeah, so it's a good ending. He's not going to fight this on the merits, but in this current political climate, I wouldn't trust justice to have the capacity of being served. Got another kid here. Don't pull my computer over. People, this stream might have to come over now. Yeah, it's raining. It's pouring. The amazing thing about Florida, it's so hot. Then there's a flash storm in the middle of the day, lightning, and I have whatever.
Okay, this has been like 20 minutes.
Oh, it's been a long time. I know. I've been seeing it all. I have a fear of lightning. When I hear lightning, I can feel what it's like to get struck by lightning.
Won't go outside.
And I insist on running back inside like a snowflake. Perfect. Okay, get off for 1 second. Go, get out of here. So that's it. I think we did good, people. We did good. Let me see what else we had in the share screen tab in the back. Hunter Biden's art project. Oh, no, I think we got everything. Yeah, my shirt doesn't smell very good. Get out of here. Get out of here.
It just smells like sweat.
It smells like sweat, is right. I've been sweating like a pig in this shirt. People, that'll do it for the day. Thank you. Oh, did I miss a super chat? Hold on. COVID hysteria, scare politics, climate change, identity politics, and the like are making our kids. Don't push on that. It's causing problems. I won't say mentally ill. It's Steve, come on, man. You know, it's causing problems, and it's like it's making them just nervous and maybe even I'll say neurotic, but I'm not the best person to talk about that. So let me just check Rumble before we go. Wednesday, I'm having dinner with Barnes in Vegas, so we might not have a sidebar Wednesday night, but I will do my best to go live at some point during the day. I'll go live tomorrow. Thursday in Vegas, I'm going to share the links all around so that people know where to watch if they're going to go to the Freedom Fest. This kid's going to knock himself out. And one second. Thank you, chat. Freedom for us all. Keep the faith. Do it. Go. Enjoy the evening. Talk to people in real life. See people as people and not immutable traits that you can weaponize for political purposes. And my goodness, that might make me a radical for saying, because it takes. Okay. Stay strong, citizens. And I saw a joke that I wanted to bring up. Yeah. Okay. That's it. I got to go and maybe I think we can. Ow. See you soon, people. See you tomorrow. Enjoy the evening. Thank you for being here. Clip, snip, share away. You know what to do, people.